What we have been focusing on is really the institutions. So it's important for us to look at the counties as institutionals. So they would obviously need to have the right, people managing that. So we are going to be looking at it as an institution, not necessarily a political institution. There would also be a financing arm of that county, and that would be the one now that would be able to issue. For example, what we sort of now have, we have institutions like the Nairobi City Council that, at some point in history issued, municipal bonds. So that's what we are looking at in terms of the eligibility. Right now, we still have our current framework for issuing of fixed income securities, so they would need to be eligible to issue that. And of course, where not, then they would have to seek the credit enhancement. And again, where would they seek that credit enhancement? I'm sure they would have to ensure that, as an issuer, they ensure their project is bankable. So that they're able to get the necessary guarantee, because it might not necessarily come from the government, because then would that mean the government would be giving all these guarantees? And I think there has been a policy about, prior approval to issue guarantee by the government. So they would have to look for other sources of people to also maybe guarantee that debt. We've had a joint committee of the Nairobi Stock Exchange, the Capital Markets Authority, and the CDSC working on the policy aspect of this particular SME segment, and that has been completed. We have approved the policy framework. Now, what is currently being done is actually holding discussions with certain SMEs who may be ready to obviously issue on the SME segment. Then thereafter, we are also going to be developing now the necessary regulations through the same committee to deal with the legal aspects of that segment. As you know, the main investment market segment and the aims all are supported by a legal provision which is in our act. So that's the process we are in now, just coming up with those necessary laws. And as I said, we expect this to be complete by October, to allow again for these SMEs to be listed. They will also certainly be lower than what is currently required under the main investment market segment or the aims, but we are looking at this really being an incubation for these companies to eventually at some point graduate so that they are listed on the main investment market segment. But I'd rather just wait for us, because as a rule we always have stakeholder workshops and we usually expose the regulations that we have issued. I'd like for us to wait so that we expose everything together, and that will allow you to see the capital requirements and all the other requirements that will be required. Okay. I'd wish to differ. Actually, the market is still very active. I think the valuations that we have seen, which means obviously the share prices are lower than what they have traditionally been, has brought in a lot of other kind of investors. For example, we've seen a lot of, yes, there has been some exit by foreign investors, but we've still seen a lot of huge buys by foreigners trying to take advantage of those low valuations so that they can actually secure a position in this market. Maybe in terms of categorization, the local investors may not have been able to take advantage of these new lower valuations, and that's something we are working on encouraging them. But on our part, I think as a regulator is really to foster the right environment. So we have been focusing on greater sensitization to the public and investor education and capacity building of the market players and ourselves to really deal with this. But on the other hand, there are potential issues we've been working with quasi-government institutions, again, so that they ensure that they get the necessary funding to carry out their projects, especially the projects that are under Vision 2030. I've talked a lot about the real estate investment trusts, which we have been working with the industry, especially the ministry, the players in the industry who are ready to issue such products. But I think on our part is how do we ensure that we now have the right regulation framework to support the real estate investment trusts. And that's something that we are working on to actually have that regulation out as soon at the earliest opportunity. As you are aware, the futures market, we are in the process of procuring a futures exchange, and we believe this will be a game changer for our market in terms of just the activity. But on the issue of the county bonds, I think what we have done, we've just had our first meeting in Eldoret last month, where we actually spoke a lot with the county there, and there was a huge interest. In fact, they had issued in the 70s, they had issued a bond as a council. So there's huge appetite, but as I said, on our part, we have to just go out and really bring this and sell that value proposition, because at the end of the day, it's the issuer. They have to appoint the advisors. As a regulator, that's not our role really, but we have to ensure that the market is in a conducive environment. We have to create a thriving environment. I think from our end, we've seen a lot of success in the banking products, but as I said, on our end, we want to encourage them to also issue capital markets products or maybe funds in this arena. We have been undertaking extensive research, and we are right now coming up with the policy proposals for this. But I think on our end, we would need, and we are working with the actual potential companies that can actually issue these kind of products in the capital markets, and really coming up with the right regulations. So what I would want to say for that is really something that we are looking at completing really by the first half of next year.